Wanted to kind of change up the talk, not just do a general kind of Flexbone talk, focus on some of the nuances and variations we do. So today we're going to look at our two-man game, which means instead of basically eliminating the pitch phase, it's either going to be give or keep. And so show you some things we do out of toss. First off, we're about as opposite of Franklin as you can get. I listened to that earlier. We're 35 kids, 9 through 12. All of our kids play both ways. Some of our varsity guys also have to play JV, linemen especially. Because of that, we have to be pretty efficient in how we install. There's a lot you could do. We have to focus on what we really want our kids to be good at, kind of limit that. We adopted Flexbone in 2011. Pretty good record over that time, won the conference a couple times. We've been running into the Chenal boys, it seems, a lot in the playoffs, either at Grantsburg or Regis. So haven't been able to break kind of that level 3 tier in the playoffs, but it's been good for us and for our system. We're still evolving, still doing some variations. This stuff I have today was really implemented kind of starting 2 years ago and then sort of developed its own life last year. It's been good for us. So here's kind of the topics. I'll go over fairly briefly our philosophy and then all the way through our blocking rules. Just kind of give you a general overview rather than a deep dive. If you have any questions on some of that stuff later, technique, drills, I'm happy to go over that. But everyone kind of has the way they like to do it, so I thought I'd give you kind of a macro view and then maybe you find some stuff that fits in your system. When we get into our toss and veer, that's why I'll get a little more deeper in detail. I got some diagrams as well as game film. So here's our philosophy. We want to double team as much as possible. The only time we're going to have a single man block is either in space or it's going to be on the backside, and then usually it's a backside cut. Everything is scoop blocks or double teams at the point of attack. We're not very big. We had 2 kids over 200 pounds this year. So we have to utilize double teams. We're a multiple formation team. Oftentimes we'll get into a bunch of formations in the first half, see how a team's going to line up, see maybe where they're vulnerable, and then try to take advantage in the second half. Also started against some of our tougher opponents, saving formations for the second half, giving them just different looks so the defense is constantly having to adjust. We really like to stress edge defenders. So for example, if you have, like, say, a stand-up, DN, he's a 9-tech. We run inside veer, midline triple. He's the pitch player. He has to decide quarterback or pitch. Well, now we can come back out of that same formation and run, say, our inside veer, or excuse me, our outside veer, and now he's a fullback quarterback player. So essentially, he has to know what to do against inside veer, outside veer, if it's fullback, quarterback, pitch. Simple for us, more complex for the defense. So the more we can stress the defender and give him dual assignments, we can make a safety, fill on option, but then also run play action at him. That's a win for us. So we try to really stress edge defenders. And then the thing we've really gotten better at, especially last year, is going to a check system and allowing our quarterback to call the play. Like a zone scheme, you can call inside zone, and certain defenses are not as good as others, but the play is never dead on arrival. Whereas if we call midline and the team lines up with 2 2-Is and 2 2s in the pinching, we're basically screws. We have to check out of it. And allowing our quarterback to do that has really helped sort of elevate our option game to the next level. Pretty standard hole system. The only reason I include this, we run a series. Our plays are called in series, so today's our 20 series. So our quarterback gets up to the line. Oftentimes he'll either think 20s or just think, and he looks, where's my open bubble? Right. So if he hears 20s, he lines up, and maybe he likes midline right, well, that'd be 22, or he likes outside veer or 2-man variation up to the left, he's going to call 25. We also have single words that we will use for that as well. A lot of teams have got a single word play, so we have codes as well as the number system, but that allows him to take charge. I don't have to guess what the defense is going to do. This is something we went to a few years ago. If you don't have an option counting system, I was talking to the guys earlier, they have it. We've gone to a 1, 2, 3 count. So if we run in our triple, 1 is read key, 2 is pitch key, 3 we call him pitch defender. If we're going to pitch the ball, who's going to make the tackle? Going to that count system has allowed our O-line as well as the wings and receivers to be all on the same page, even if the defense stems. We were getting into issues with it. We played Elk Mountain, they were stemming on us a lot, throwing off our blocking scheme. All our kids ran their count, they'd stem, we just redo the count, we didn't have to check the play, just reran our count numbers, and we were good to go. So having everyone on the same page is very helpful. Here's an example of what this would look like. So this is our unbalanced look. We like to get into this a lot against odd front teams. If you get teams, they want to keep kind of the 2 4s and that 0. We like to get into an unbalanced look. We gain a number, so unless they're willing to shift their line or roll guys down the box, we gain a number advantage. Basically, that backside corner would be out here. We just don't even worry about him, right? So we're running inside veer. We're going to be the first guy outside the B gap, or outside in this case, it'd be the 4 hole. He's 1. Next guy on the line or second level defender outside is 2. And then if we were to pitch, who's going to make the tackle? So we get up the line, our kids know, hey, I'm counting. First guy outside is 1. So our tackle, hey, here's 1. He knows he's inside releasing. Tight end goes 1. Well, next guy out is 2. So we're not touching these 2 dudes. Our wing knows, hey, the O-line is called 1-2. Well, who's the next? Essentially the next man out. Usually it's going to be a safety rolling down in the box. He'd be 3. If we get, like a team, they have a 3 linebacker look. Sometimes they like to vary it. Maybe he's going to be an inside player, then he comes out. If we have our count, it doesn't really matter where he lines up. Our wing knows he has to get him. So that's how we do our 1-2-3. When we get into our double option, the only change off it is we basically eliminate 2. Okay, and I have some slides on that next, and that's going to be the focus of today. Here's the outside Veer. So what I really like about this count system, same formation, unbalanced, same defense, 52 look. Now we call inside Veer. It's going to be outside Veer, so we're kicking everything out one gap. So now in inside Veer he was 1, but outside Veer we're reading 1 gap over. So now this stand-up backer, he's our 1. Our wing, well, hey, before this guy was 3, but now if there's 1, he's 2. Now he knows he's just going to work inside, 2nd to 3rd level, right? Defensively now we put these 2 guys in a bind, because when we run inside Veer, this dude has to run the pitch, right? You got to cover pitch. He's screaming to pitch. We got a hat on him. If we do get the pitch off, we got a big play potential. So now we come out here. He's screaming to pitch still. Our quarterback now can get the keep, and now we can turn it up the alley. And so that's where every defense, they got to sort of pick what they want to stop. And if you allow your quarterback to take charge, okay, you're going to stop outside here. We'll run inside here. You're going to pack it inside. We'll kick out. Obviously personnel matters as well, and sometimes you just run into better players. But the more you can push your kids in a good position, the better off you'll be. All right, so blocking scheme. We use something called the L rule, and this is essentially for the guys next to number 1, next to the read key. So if we're running outside Veer here, like I had on the previous slide, we identify first guy out C gap. He's going to be our 1. Our tight end, you can either do tackle over. We just cover our tight end. Less teaching. We used to run where we bring a tackle over, put the tight end to the nub. Had all these visions of running some kind of plays back to the tight end run, and it just never happened and never executed. So we just cover our tight end now. But he knows if the read key is to my right, he's going to hold up his right hand. He's going to make a 90-degree, call it an L. Throws guys off because it's a backwards L sometimes too, right? He's going to hold up his right hand, and his rule is backside gap, man on, downfield. Well, he's got a vortex, so we'll say that's backside gap. So he knows he's going to work a combo block there. If the team were to kick into, say, a 3, well, there's no one on his backside gap. So, okay, backside gap's not there. I'm just going to go immediately downfield. Our wing does the same thing. So the wing's got the read key to his left, so he'll hold up his left hand. He knows that's 1. But, hey, well, that's the pitch key. I got to shut that down. I'm not blocking the pitch key. So now I'm downfield, checking 2nd to 3rd level. Usually it's going to be the safety kind of running the alley. I mean, 52 teams rarely are going to scream a backer from the inside all the way out. I have game film here against the team. They run this where they like to slant that tackle. We used to have issues with slanting D linemen when we had kind of a gap scheme. And we basically said, screw it. If you're going to slant, we're going to triple team. Whichever way he slants, those 2 double, and then the other guy combo goes up. So if he's a 4 and he slants in, these 2 dudes are going to take over. Tight end releases vertical. If he slants out, it's going to be a give. These 2 double team, he's going to work vertical, and then our fullback has to cut underneath it. It's one thing if you can get your fullback to work on reading that, we call him the cut key. Now it almost turns into a zone play. Fullback this year, very tough runner, very straight ahead runner, was having a hard time seeing those cuts. And I'm trying to talk to him about it. He's a farm kid. He told me, and I didn't know this till this year, when he was a little kid, he got kicked by a cow in the face, and he's half blind out of the left side of his left eye. Oh, that makes sense why you never see the cut. Like, dude, don't you see the hole? He literally did it. So, maybe something to work with. You find out if your kid's half blind. But in theory, he'll just cut off that. You essentially have his own play. But this is where when we got away from our gap scheme and we're essentially scooping everything. Now we're always 2-on-1. On the backside, as I said, we're going to scoop, we'll cut. We don't even block that guy in the line. We have yet to find a team that can bring him off the backside edge and get there. It just hasn't happened yet. If he's a super stud athlete, maybe he would, but we just haven't had. So we really like 50 teams. If you're going to put 5 guys on the line, we're just going to not block 1. Now, because he's on the line, he can't impact the play. Where if he was, like say a 43 look, he's off the line, now he theoretically get on the play more. So. if you have any other questions about block, I'm not going to go through all the details of blocking every different front, variations of it, but if you have that stuff, I'm happy to stick around afterwards or email me if you watch it later. All right, so now let's get into our two-man game. This is, like I said, really took kind of a form of its own last year. So in the past, we would just call no pitch. So we call our outside veer, inside veer, no pitch. And it got just a lot of verbiage. We're doing it so much, we're like, let's make it its own series. So this is our 20 series. Here's why I like it. We can run it out of any formation. As long as there's a fullback, we can run it. If you want to run triple, you always need to have a backside wing. If we're on triple option to our left or to your right, you have to have a wing there to be in pitch phase. Well, that gets tough then when we get into some of our unbalanced looks. I'll show you, we like to really overload one side. We'll put 6 guys to one side of the ball, force the defense to shift. You're kind of limited in what you can run. So the two-man game allows you to still run an option play either direction, even if you don't have a pitch phase. It's also good into the boundary. It's tough to run triple option into the boundary. It just is. We have a senior year quarterback who's a phenomenal player this year, all-conference player, the conference player of the year, both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Best quarterback I've had. Even he was reluctant to pitch into the boundary. He's just not comfortable doing it because everything's compressed. So if you get your kid to do it, that's awesome. I find let's just run our two-man game into the boundary. We don't have to even worry about it. Really good for our JV guys because it's a faster read. It's either give or keep. There is no pitch. It allows your young guys to play faster through their progression. And then finally, it minimizes turnovers. We got, last year we get into some games where we have a lead late. We don't want to pitch the ball. Like our quarterback should be pitching, he's not going to just because he knows he wants to, he's afraid of the turnover. Well, let's call the two-man game. One disadvantage, because there's no pitch phase, defenses don't need to defend it, obviously, and then you lose your potential for a big play. So there is always a disadvantage to every play, but this one has a lot of upside to it. All right, so I'm going to kind of talk over the concept and then show you a lot of the formations. As I said, we're a multiple formation team. I like to run different formations to make the defense adjust. And then if they're gonna show me something, then they're giving up something as well. Right? Every defense has a weakness. If you can find out what that is, what they're trying to hide. Sometimes it's a player they're trying to hide. Other times it's a gap in their a weakness in their schematics. Find what you can take advantage of. So we get this we call our tray formation. This is not a two tight. We can also go out a single tight. What I like about this formation is it presents a 3-receiver side, but also run strength. We'll run a variation where we kick them out and we run a true trip. So we can run sprint out to this. We can run 3 or 4 verticals. So if you get a cover 3 team, we can still run 4 verts at it. It's good against that, but then it's also because we have this wing attached, we can still run triple to the backside. Okay? So this would be like a look at what we'd call 26 or a two-man game. Essentially, it's outside veer rules, except there's just one. There's no 2 and there's no 3. So everything as I showed in previous slides is the same out here. We're working our L rule, triple team and back inside. Our wing now, because he knows it's double option, that there's no pitch, he's going and arcing right to safety. What I love too about this is running play action on this look. Because oftentimes what happens, this dude, he's coached, come down on fullback, right? Now our quarterback is out on the edge. We got a hat on a hat. Our quarterback's our best athlete. Most option teams, that's true. The safety now has to get real aggressive, and now that opens up the seam. We'll also run play action with 3 verts, where we'll run the tight end up the seam to hold that free safety, send the wing up the seam as well. And our quarterbacks don't pass a lot, but when we do, it's usually a big play. And it's basically reading one guy. The quarterback can green that strong safety. It's usually one receiver or one defender read for him.
On the play action, you still read the end?
No, our fullback has the end. Our fullback, so all of our play action, well, I should say most of our play action, the fullback is going to end up taking the read key. So he's going to go a little bit wider on this path, and he's just a token fake, and he is fitting up inside and trying to kick this dude out. For him, he gets this inside for release from the tight end, it looks like option to him. So what we found is oftentimes he'll just come and try to tackle the fullback, and then he realizes he doesn't have the ball, and we're usually good. So quarterback's going to open up his normal steps, outside veer steps. He makes his first long, his gather step, and he's going to get back 3, set up and throw. I found our play action protection is actually better than our normal drop back. When we have to drop back, it's usually not so good for us. They bring those D linemen tricks. We go play action. Everyone's trying to figure out their option assignments. Usually we're pretty good at play action. Out of this 2 tight end look, we like to just keep him in and block. We'll also run this formation and have him split out as our Z receiver, and we get single man coverage in the backside. I have some clips of that where teams get nervous of that, and it opens up stuff on the front side. What's cool about what I like about this too is out of this tray formation, if you still wanted to run triple option in the boundary, you could. Either inside veer or outside veer. It's still a good play, so you got kind of both choices. If I was lined up on the right hash, I might on the left hash, I might go tray to the field, and then look at how they line up, and I can either run my two-man game. I'll hold on to that, because I'll show you. I got it actually drawn up how you run a two-man game into the boundary here. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll also run, we just call this tray twins, or tray spread. You can detach the Z, so now you present more of a passing threat. Again, you can go four birds. You probably can get some kind of man coverage on the backside if you have a solid receiver. You want to take advantage there. We can still run our two-man game to either side. We got into tagging a lot of stuff with bubble, where we run some kind of twin set out here, and the call would go into the quarterback. Think 20 bubble. He gets up the line. If he likes bubble, we're taking it. If the team's going to walk down and take away bubble, or split out, take away bubble, all right, we'll just run option. Drew up an even front, the same kind of formation. Just throw, if you wanted to run it back into the nub, you certainly could. So this would be, this one is essentially like outside veer where you're attacking that 9. This would be inside veer, so any point is the guard's butt crack, like if you had a traditional four-front team running like a 3-1. One thing to be aware of though, if you are running this, how they play that backer. If they're a pinch scrape team, the play's dead. Because you can't pitch off him anymore. In triple, you can pitch off him, right? Okay, we'll count, he'll be 2, we'll just pitch off him, we're good. If you get in this look and they're a pinch scrape team, quarterback disconnects and now there's a linebacker scraping in his face. I have a clip of that I'll show you. And then, that's not a good play. You got to kind of know how the defense likes to defend you.
Will you ever read the linebacker then?
Yeah, we played Mondovi this year for the conference title. A very, very good team, very physical. We got into some twin sets, and it sort of just happened by accident. We got in twin set, and we noticed they were walking that stand-up out, and so we were literally running two-man game at a guy who's out in space, and that started to really gash them. And they had to start they started bringing that safety down, and then we actually run some big play action off that. So yeah, you can. You gotta, again, what's this dude? Here's a better look at it. Like if you let's say they wanted to apex him out, maybe you're throwing slant here, so like okay, after we're gonna walk him out, take away slant. Well, now you could theoretically run outside veer at this guy. Aiming point would be here. You just got to know what's he doing. It's a little bit tougher of a scoop block, but we've done it. Especially if a team's a slant team and you know which way they're going to slant. Like if we get a slant angle team where hey they're gonna slant to our strong side, and then they want to have this dude kind of be an apex player to take away the quick slant game. It's like okay, well he's slanting away. That's an easy scoop block, and now we're right up on that alley. Yeah, and this is where coaching the quarterback to run that two-man game, he can do. We had a 3-year starter, senior, as I said, very good players who can play at River Falls, committed or decided he's gonna. I gave him a lot of free reign. I trusted him a lot. We worked a lot in the classroom on this stuff too, a lot of walkthrough stuff. He got real comfortable. He'd see it, hey, let's check to this, let's check to that, So here's a twins look. As I mentioned, we take a lot of stuff with bubble, so this would go into say 20s bubble. In the past, before we had our 20 series in, we got into this formation and we were pretty limited. We essentially had to run either midline or we had to run to the twin side. We didn't have anyone to run pitch phase. We dabbled with having this guy come in motion and stop and being a pitch back. It just never really materialized on the field. It looked good on paper. The timing was tough. It was a tough read. It just wasn't very effective for us. So we'll get into this look and we can run our two-man game to the outside or to the tight end side. We can throw bubble back. This is what I was talking about with Mondovi. We got into this look and then we actually ran our two-man game at this dude here. And our wing, Al, was running up and picking up the safety. So that safety started screaming down the box, and that's when we ran play action. We actually hit this guy twice on the seam. It was really the only thing that kept us in the game. We couldn't run the ball, but we had a ton of passing yards, which is rare for us. All right, I'll show you some film here, and then we'll talk about our rocket stuff. You can kind of see, I got several different clips of the film. It gives a little bit better idea.
So when you call that a 20 series, like an outside veer, what do you call it, like 26?
Yeah, and regular veer would be 36. And now you guys know we're playing you next year. Now you know we get to allow it. Actually, close that out. No, and that's where we also have one-word codes for it. Which of those I won't share with you. The one-word codes are for our sort of plays we like to run a lot. And then I got, okay, we want to, maybe I want to run a fullback dive. I want my fullback to get the ball. Let's say a short yardage, and I just want to run toward the open hole. So my quarterback get up and it'd be, thing 0, and he's just calling out the number. If you do that once or twice a game, defenses don't pick up on it. You start to run your one-word calls, they pick up, and then you need to have, opposite calls and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here's that twins look I was talking about. We have twins to the right, tight end, then our wing. Against the 50 team, now I put this on here to show you what that pinch scrape looks like. Our tight end, first-year player here at tight end, blocks the read key, which is not a good thing. But even if he were not to block the read key, we'd still be screwed on this. This dude's an outside player, he's 9, but he's going to pinch down to force quarterback keep. And then this backer scrapes over the top. Because this is a corner walk down into the box, we have no way, it's a dead play. Now, this team, the linebacker doesn't make a good play, but you'll see what I'm talking about when you run into issues where you have a scrape scheme. See how I'll put it in slow motion here. This is one of those where, live looks, oh, what a great play, and then you watch the film and you go, oh, they just messed up. So he scrapes over the top, this number 2 here. He should be a quarterback player. See that right there? He's unblocked. He should be smoking the quarterback. And if I'm their D coach, I'm pissed, right? Because you've got a good defense. So this is where having that check system in place, you see that, oh, hey, we're either better off running triple at that or run something inside, midline, or run it back to the 2-man surface. I got to apologize. We don't have end zone film. My head coach doesn't want to do the end zone tape, so we're a small school, you get that. All right, so here's a 50 team. No automatic. Here's there. All right, so 52 team, strong safety. We're running essentially outside veer with no pitch. So here's our 1. Now this guy, if we're running triple, would be 2. Since it's just our 2-man game, we're blocking him up. So you'll see what I was talking about with that triple team. Our guard, tackle, and tight end are going to work the double and then combo up to that inside backer, reading him, and our wing is arcing for the outside shoulder. Put it in slow motion here. So this guy slants in, so now our guard and tackle are going to take over, and then our tight end can work up right away. This is the advantage of working those scoop blocks. Now you can see if it were to be a give, how you have that nice wall right there. And now you're asking the free safety to come and tackle our fullback, who's our top 3 player. It goes quarterback, wing, and fullback. I mean, they're all pretty good. With your wings, arc blocking, it's important that they take a wide arc path. You'll see his path, he gets too vertical, and he doesn't get to the outside of this number 2. Well, not number 2 anymore, but outside of strong safety. See how right here kind of hesitates? He should be on the outside shoulder because it's key. He's blocking for quarterback. Now our quarterback has to work around the block. Or if you run that outside shoulder, you'll probably get in there a little bit better. One thing, if you do put in the outside veer, and I was talking to guys earlier, it's a longer read for your quarterback. In that first step, this is early in the year, that first step needs to be extra wide and gather. And because it's a longer read, you just got to be comfortable sitting in it longer. What we find is oftentimes these DNs will come up and then down, rather than like on inside veer. If he's up at all, it's right away we're given. All right, so here's a good look at it. This is against a 4-3 team. We got into this tray formation, so our tight end's uncovered, tight end wing, and then that's our other wing split out. They block their strong safety down in the box, essentially turns into a 4-4 look out of this. We're still reading here. It's outside veer, he's a 9. So our tight end, he's working the backer, and then our wing, in the previous clip, was arcing to a safety who was at like 8 to 10. Well, now that safety's down in the box, he's still working his arc rules. Play it live, and then I'll go in slow motion here. Good look at the quarterback's footwork. His first step should be a little bit deeper, a little bit wider. Pretty easy read. And now we're out on the edge. This is where, too, with that strong safety down in the box, if you wanted to run some play action, it certainly opens up a lot of options. You could run play action, and then you could run this guy out into the flat. There's really no flat defender out there. In theory, you also have vertical routes as well. They're running a cover 3 against 4 receiver set. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, let me go quick change this.
What's your coaching points on the mesh? Like, how do you teach that?
Yeah, so, you know, midline, inside veer, and outside veer all have different footwork. This is one thing we looked at adding pistol, and running off pistol as well, and then I realized now we're adding 3 more footwork, so everything's at the line. So we use that kind of clock teaching method. So on midline, it's a step back, and he's replacing. Inside veer, teach you 45-degree step, short step. Outside veer is just we call it a hop step. This quarterback's older brother actually is playing at Stout right now. Tall kid, like 6'2", 6'3". Outside veer was great for him because he had such long steps to begin with. Inside veer was tough. This kid's the opposite. He was real good at inside veer. Outside veer was tougher because he had to take that big hop step. Fullback's footwork is actually the most important on outside veer. Everything else is basically at his aiming point. On outside veer, we teach a 6-inch slide step and then a crossover step. Because if he goes right at the read key, right at his aiming point, it doesn't time up. He gets there too fast. So you have to deepen him up, and then the angles aren't as good. He's at such an extreme angle. We want him when he's at the line of scrimmage to get back vertical. So if you look at putting an outside veer, when we did that changed our meshes entirely. A little 6-inch side step, crossover, and then he's on his path. When the fullback gets to the line of scrimmage, he's got to hit it and get vertical and fight through that tackle. So that's the biggest thing. Your fullback's got to be willing to run through a wall. Otherwise, if he gets stopped at that line of scrimmage, now the quarterback's got a bubble and the whole place starts to fall apart.
Was their D line that far off every snap or no?
Yeah, this game they were, and I was kind of like, okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you on that one. Yeah, it looks odd, doesn't it?
I'll take it.
I think part of what they were doing, we played this team again in the playoffs. They were trying to jam our old linemen at the line of scrimmage to not let them release the backers and then just to slow down the read. And I think that's why they did it, was they were trying to play kind of a read front with their defense. It wasn't super effective. But I mean, I shouldn't talk too much. You can see some of our old line out. Our technique's not always good either. You know, it's not uncommon for us to take a kid. Like the kid playing tight end last year, he was a receiver. Now he's got to play tight end. 1 year, our quarterback, who was a senior, he moved to tight end. Like, small school, you can kind of work with what you got sometimes. All right, so this gets a 3-3 stack team. I included this clip because what this team was doing here is with motion, they were slanting the D-line to motion, and they were also sliding to the backers to try and, to match our motion. So we got into our tray formation. Here's tight end wing, and then our other wing is off the camera. So we actually run him in a motion to the left, and then we come back to the right with our 2-man game. So it almost becomes a counter look. We don't have to call counter. I just add the tag of the motion. So the play call goes in. It's just a tag for the motion, and then our 2-man game. So you'll see I'll play live, and I'll do a slow motion here. You see how they start sliding, and then we come back. Free safety, fullback had the ball. So you see when we motion, they start sliding. They're taking themselves out of position. They slant here, so we get the triple team. I mean, we have great blocking angles. Get up. Get that alley. This also, I was talking about the late read. So if, like on inside veer, midline, you teach that those shoulders are vertical, right? If they're up the field, automatic give right away. Well, if you're to do this on outside veer, you're not going to get good reads. You'll see how he comes up, but then comes flat late and actually back into the fullback because we get so much movement on our double team here. Again, having a senior quarterback, I love this because you actually see his eyes. You can tell his eyes are on it the whole time. Very disciplined, pulls late, leg clear, now he's going to get up the field. Get down. All right, this is against Colby. Now, when we went into our, this is our trade twins look here. So instead of having the wing, we just kicked them out. First time we got into this, they actually put the linebacker, they're a 4-3 team. They wind the linebacker and play the safety over the top of it. So we call 26, or we call our outside veer 2-man game. It's actually no good. We really don't have any way to block this guy. He's apexing on the snap. He actually comes up and in. It's too tough to block for our wing. Plus, it's not his rule. right? Because he knows here's the Reiki, he's doing his L rule, he's looking downfield, so that would be a rule breaker. So I'll show you why it doesn't work, but then what we did to take advantage of that. And this is where having multiple formations and a check system can be really valuable. I actually asked my quarterback after the play, I said, why did you keep it? He gave me the answer. He said, well, we didn't have anyone to block whatever kid that number is. He said, well, couldn't block him. Oh, okay, that's a good answer. Because right here he sees though that this dude is going to come up, so he just gave. He saw it, oh, bad play, live with it, fight another day. Because here's our one, our tight end, he has to inside release, it's a stand-up 9, while this backer being out, there's really no one for him to block. So we see the outside two-man game is going to be no good. So we come back, I think, it's either the second half or a couple series later. We say, well, all right, well, if you're going to play essentially 3 out here to R2, right, they got the backer plus the safety, 3 to R2, well, now we'll run midline. Because this backer who before was inside, which makes midline not so good, now he's out, well, hell, there's a huge alley. So we just come and run midline at it. You'll see we got a nice play here. Right up the seam. You know, that safety being so far off, it's a tough play for him to make. And we have great blocking angles. We actually end up getting 3 on the mic. I'll do it in slow motion here. So you see quarterback's eyes, right on the read key, good footwork clearing, fullback is straight up the center's ass. Guard inside release, tackle outside release. Tight end, he works his read. This is where that L rule is real helpful. So that tight end, he had, I think, from this clip, like a head up. So he's lined up. Here, I'll do it so you guys can see. He knows midline, that tackle is going to be the read key. It's to his left, so he's going to hold up, or to his right, hold up his hand. All right, I'm blocking backside gap. Well, he's got a man, not backside gap, but head up, which is this, no, backside gap, head up, I'm right there. If this guy were to walk out, hold up the elbow, backside gap, I'm right there. You know, so it's a good system. It allows your kids to all be on the same page.
Do you make a line call like who they're reading?
Who they're reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, our line every play gets up and calls out 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Even if we're running rocket or fullback dive, they'll call 1, 2. They just know there is no 1 or 2. Otherwise, that sort of gives it away. Hey, here's 1. Oh, right away, you know. So, and that's where, you know, calling every time. Teams at first they think they got to figure it out, and then, well, he called 1, but now I'm getting double teamed as fullback dive.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll do dummy calls on the 1, 2. As far as scoop blocking goes, it's going to be our backside guard who decides how the combos are going to work, like on midline, for example. So if he, let's say we're running midline, let's say I'm playing left guard, we're running midline to the right, so it's right A gap. If I have a 2-eye or a shade, we're working scoop blocks, right? But that guard says, I can't get there. So now he gets to call the center off, say, hey, I need help. So now the center and that backside guard are going to combo that 1. It's usually fine because there's not another guy in the front side A, and if there is, then we should be checking out to something else.
So you'll read the A, yeah. The
First guy outside the A gap, yep. So we
outside the A gap.
Yeah.
So you'll down block the A gap.
I'm not understanding your question.
So if he's in the A gap,
Yep.
you're gonna block.
We'll read 1 out. Yeah, we'll read
Okay.
out. If let's say we have midline call a team, maybe they're a 3 and a 1, and then we start arcades and that 3 kicks down into a 1. Well, our guard, his rule is backside gap, right? So that 3, it's suddenly kicked into a 1. He's now in my backside gap. Now I got to take him, and then it turns into fullback dive.
2-eye, you'll read.
No, it's too tough. It happens too fast. We've tried it. It's just not so good. Yeah.
So basically 2 and out.
2 and out. Yeah. 2 and out. You know, if you get like sometimes you get a big defensive tackle who's a 2-eye, but he's pretty slow, then you can. But then it really doesn't matter if he's just that slow. It doesn't really matter what you do. But against the real good teams, if they're a 2-eye, it's just the angle becomes real tough. One thing we will do, if we get like say a 2-eye and then a 3 to the backside, because they're basic, or something like that, we'll run what we call bend, where it looks like option and it's an automatic give, and our fullback knows he's bending back behind the center. It turns into like a little mini counter play. So it looks like Veer and everything, but then it's an automatic cut backside. So we will do that. All right, so here's what I was talking about, some play action. We're in our tray twins look, so tight end. Slot, this would be our right wing now is out, on the left side is a slot, and we have another wing off camera. This is that same team that I showed you with Durant. Now, first time we played them, we have a fairly tall receiver out here, a couple key downs, we were running slants to the single man side. So they actually take their free safety and they shade him out here. Well, if you look at it, they have a corner, that's the strong safety. Free safety is on the other side of the ball. We have 3 to their 2. And we're going to run play action. We actually thought we were going to get number 2 here on the seam. The safety stays on number 2. The backer comes on a blitz, and you'll see there's no one on the tight end now on the vertical route. See, he starts to creep our quarterback, sees this, pre-snap, fake, sets high, lets it clear, and we have tight end right up the seam.
Will you let the quarterback check into that?
Check into the passing? No. No, I won't. Not that I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it. That might be, the kid we got coming up next year, pretty good arm. Like, he really should be at a different school that throws the ball more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I don't want to tell him that obviously, but it's like, dude, if you were at a passing school, man, you've got some scholarship potential. Strong arm, tall kid, you know, kind of your prototypical quarterback. We might get into some more of that stuff. We might look at some gun stuff with him just because we feel like we want to take advantage of it. The problem is, as you can see, our line is pretty small. So base blocking is not one of our strengths here. All right, this is the last one. All right, so this was against Mondovi, as I said, played them for essentially what was the conference title. They had not given up a point all year until the time we played them, second to last game of the season. Very good team, super physical, they're just a phenomenal team. Now they're a 52 front team, or a 3-4, whatever you want to call it. And we were having such a hard time inside that we're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We put this package in. We actually go to a 4-man surface. So we have guard, tackle, extra tackle, tight end, and then we took our wing and split them out. And what that does is that kicked them out of their base alignment. So instead of being, you know, the 4-0-4 that the 50 teams like to stay in, now they have to shift. And now we get we get a bubble to this backside. Whereas before, it's pretty tough to run. If you got a 4 and then, you know, essentially a 5, it's tough. There's not much room there for the read. So we got them off their keys, and now we actually come back into the boundary with our 2-man game. Yep, easy read, 10 yards. And I'm not, I mean, 10 yards were not easy to come by in this game. This one coaching point, our wing, he does a good job on his initial arc, but then he gets stacked up with this number 1 here, instead of staying to his outside shoulder. Where if he, you know, I'll slow motion when we get there. If he stays on the outside, see his initial arc path is pretty good, then he gets vertical. See, he's outside, and it comes in right there, that left foot. And now that allows the guy over the top. Where if he were to stay outside and get that outside shoulder, we might get the sideline here for a much bigger play. But you can see now, I mean, just look at, you can see the size of 62 compared to the size of our guys.
Yeah, but when you slid him in, he was able to watch him.
Yeah, by sliding him in, now we can get that double team. Whereas before, when he stays in the 4, you know, my 170-pound tackle, he's having a hard time base blocking a 220, 230 kid. So we got him off his landmark, now we can get to our double teams that we like. You see the guard and tackle, they do a good job with that double team right there. Even though number 2 stays flat-footed, our quarterback knew that he was probably going to get a late pull, plus the quarterback just wanted a big play. He's that kind of kid. And, you know, it works sometimes. All right, so that's a taste of our 2-man game. Again, if you have questions at all, or other looks, or how we block against that defense or this defense, I'm happy to talk it over with you. You know, we're watching later on. Shoot me an email on that first slide. Next, I'm going to go into our Rocket series, and just some variations we do out of Rocket. Out of curiosity, you guys are either running Flexbone or thinking about running Flexbone or option. If you don't have Rocket, you got to have Rocket. It's a D-gap play. It stresses the defense. I think it's the advantage of having the double wing is being able to run that Rocket toss. Before I get to Rocket, one thing I want to show you we started doing was just a fullback toss. 2 reasons we did this. We got into a lot of kind of what I call super unbalanced looks, where we're going to have a 3-receiver set plus a covered tight end. So we're presenting 6 guys on one side of the ball, really stress the defense and make them shift. We wanted to be able to attack that edge without having the backside wing to run Rocket. We started going to this fullback toss. So it's great out of our unbalanced formations. The blocking scheme is identical to Rocket, although the technique is a little bit different. We're going to be working front side scoops instead of what we call run and rip like we do on Rocket, where we're just turning and really trying to cross face. It almost looks like outside zone in some ways, the blocking way. You got to check your fullback back if you're going to do it because he needs a little bit more depth so you can run that toss. And as I said, it was still development for us, so there's still some tweaks we got going on next year. All right, so here's an example of one of the various formations we do. This is our trip set and our base trips. Our wing is normally here, and then our Z receiver is out on the numbers. We add a tag. This is trips tight. Tight just tells our Z, hey, you come down in tight about 5 yards from end line of scrimmage. This gives them great blocking angles, and now it changes how the defense wants to defend. So as I said, we're just going to run essentially front side scoop. So if you notice everyone's scooping to the right, we're running toss right. Our wing, he's doing his arc blocking technique just like you would on Veer. So his block now is at the line, which is different, but the technique is the same. It's no different than arcing up to a safety or arcing to a linebacker. The Z receiver, his changes a little bit based on what the safety does. You know, here the safety's playing off, so he's going to release. If the safety starts coming down, now that changes his blocking angle. But what we like is we'll get to this formation, we run fullback toss. How are they going to line up? We'll run toss, we get an idea of how they're going to line up, and now we'll say, okay, option, this double man option is good, or this triple option is good out of this formation. You know, like if they want to widen this dude out because they don't like kind of this two-man look here, so they walk out their end, well shit, now we'll just read that guy, it's going to be an automatic give right at the seam. Good formation for play action. We got into a lot of tight stuff with our Z receiver. Here's another example. This would be out of, I was talking about, you know, like a super unbalanced look. So this is our base trips, but then instead of having our tight end on the backside, we bring him over and we cover him. So it's an unbalanced look. What I really like about it, it presents it, it's sort of a bind for the defense. You have a 3 receiver set, so it's like, okay, do we run our trips principles? You know, most teams have a certain way they like to defend trips. But now with this tight end in here, you also have run strength. So if a team wants to run their base, I just drew up against a 4-3 look. If a team wants to run their base formation, we have an extra hat, right? And that's the advantage. You know, you're always trying to get the extra hat, right? You know, I was listening to the single wing unbalanced. They're trying to gain numbers, right? That's kind of offense is all about numbers. If a team now wants to do some kind of slide, maybe they're going to say, well, hell, there's no one over here. Let's do corner over. They're going to bring the corner over. That's great. Now we can run triple option back to the dub, right? So, you know, using unbalanced, using various formations to stress the defense and open things up is part of our philosophy. All right, and I got a film, by the way, of both fullback toss and rocket. Something else out of rocket, other than just running out of kind of your base stuff, we got into a lot of crack schemes. Here's what I love about crack schemes. It gives the defense a different look, and it creates great blocking angles. We get a lot of teams that start flying out on rocket because it's such an aggressive play. You know, we're tossing that ball outside the tackle. It's a D-gap play. Defenses start flying out. Well, now we can come and crack on them. The way we run it, the wide receiver is going to block the widest level 2 defender. This could either be an outside linebacker if it's like a 4-4 look. If it's a team with a 2-high safety, they're rolling safeties to motion. Now he's going to be cracking on that safety. Right? So we essentially say when the ball snaps, who's the widest level 2 defender, that's who you're cracking. Our wing, he hears crack, it's got a C in it, he's going to the corner. So he's taking his normal arc steps, but instead of working vertically, he's going to stay a little bit wider and then track out to the corner. You can run out of your base. We really like running out of the tight alignment out of our wide receiver, which is the preferred method for us. And then it also works great with Veer. I have a couple of clips where I'll show you. We run it out of rocket, get some big plays, team starts over adjusting, and then we come back with Veer to put him on the inside of Veer. Here's what that would look like on paper. So this is that unbalanced formation I've been showing a lot of, where the Z is normally out on the numbers. We call it U tight or unbalanced tight. Now he comes in. This would be our rocket toss right, and we have our crack scheme called. So he's working inside. Safety's coming down. The wing is working his wide arc path, kicking out the corner. Most of the time, a lot of corners, when we coach our corners against crack scheme, hey, you got to replace. It's almost like a gap exchange for the defense. You see crack, then you got to come up and fill. So this guy comes up to fill. A lot of times, and you'll see on the film, that wing just kicks him out. And because you have that great angle from the Z, now that your guy getting the ball has an alley. This is also really good out of play action. So, that Mondovi clip I showed, one of the big plays we ran out of was we ran crack out of Veer play action. That corner, he sees the arc release, he sees the inside release, he's thinking, oh, it's triple option, I got to fill. And then we run the wing on a wheel route for about a 40-yard touchdown play. And it was really only because of play action pass that we were able to even stay in the game to the fourth quarter. Here's another look out of that crack scheme. This is just against a 4-3 team here. What I did on this, instead of running the unbalanced formation, we run out of, this is like our base, we just call it base tight. it tells our X and our Z, you both are coming into our tight alignment. Again, it can give you some blocking angles. It puts these corners in more of a bind. A lot of teams we play, their corners are cover 3 guys. They like to stay off their cover guys. When you get in this tight formation, you got to kind of decide, is your corner going to be sort of your force player, or are you going to bring the safety up? Well, now if you do that, you're kind of in a cover 3 against a double set. Most teams don't necessarily like to do that because of the 4-bird threat. So we found we got into this a lot of times on motion for rocket. Safety's rolling down the box, corner was filling up outside, inside blocking the crack, kick out from the wing. Again, Veer is a good variation off this as well. All right, now a couple other rocket variations we do. One of the things we started doing, especially in the goal line of short yardage, we move that fullback. For those who maybe aren't familiar with rocket, he's going in motion and he's catching the toss basically outside the tackle. Like when it's clinic film, when it's executed well, it's way the hell out here. We actually coach, don't block a 4-techer in. So if this is a 4-tech, our tackles turn in and run. If the 4-tech can get there, it means either he's an absolute stud, or more likely our backfield action was bad. It was slow, pitch relationship, the toss relation was poor. The problem with that though, because it happens so wide, your fullback can't lead block, he gets in the way. Well, maybe I want my fullback to lead block, maybe it's short yardage, I just want to get my grind yards. We'll get into, we call it a rip or Liz adjustment, especially on short yardage. If teams are going to load the box, maybe they're like, F it, we're going to bring everyone. Well, let's run rocket to the edge. We'll offset our fullback, and now he can actually be a lead blocker. I have one on film where we don't take care of the D-line, and he should make the play, except because we're in our rip alignment, our fullback picks up the leakage, and we still have a good play. Although, other than that, all of the other rocket blocking is the same rules. One thing here, if you got a 9 and you run a rocket, against a 9, you have to double team a 9. And this sticks up our wings when they're young at it, because they're used to just turning and running. It's like, hey, we got a tight end in here. Remember, the pitch is outside the tackle. It's not outside the tight end. So if this guy's a 9, he's turning and running, our tight end can't get there. The wing has to double team. And that throws the wings off a little bit, because they're used to seeing the tackle. They just turn it, they're working next level. Well, now it's a 9-tech, you got to double team with the tight end. The last thing here, and then I got, I think, film next. If you got a kid that can throw, halfback pass is great off a rocket. Absolutely phenomenal off a rocket. Our wing, I got the tape on it. He can throw the ball well. We get into our unbalanced formation here. We get our fullback to pick up any leakage. Corners on rocket, they're getting bitched at by their coach, so they start filling, and now you can run your Z on a go route. It's pretty effective. It's also effective if you get teams that like to play cover 2, where they're going to bring this corner down and play him either a jam or like 5 yards, where maybe he's just going to sit flat, and once he sees toss, he's filling hard. That's a tough block for the Z. So we see that, it's a scouting thing, right? We put this in week 1, in 2-days, and we basically keep it in there until we see a team we like it against. If that corner decides he's going to get up and try to make a play, then we'll go over their head. Any questions on rocket or technique stuff before I get into the actual film of it? You kind of see that toss I was talking about, those things. All right.
Well, 10 minutes.
Yep, perfect. I got 8 clips, so that should be fine. All right, so this is the just the fullback toss. This is that trips tight look I was talking about. So here's our receiver. Normally he's split out on the numbers. Now he's in tight. This gets the 3-3 stack team, and they did not want to get off their stack. So there, as you can see, we actually got a lot of space out here to the edge. Well, we're going to run toss to take advantage of that. One coaching point with this fullback toss, and something got better as the year went on. This is new to this kid running it. He doesn't turn it. He keeps his shoulders square, so he doesn't get as wide as we'd like. We'd like him to turn his shoulders to the sideline, get 2-3 steps on the ground, and then look back for the ball. See how he's kind of looking already. What I like about it is this Z has a great angle on the backer. We actually end up having more blockers than they can. They do defenders. Our wing gets up, everyone's scooping. Great angle. That's huge to see him out there. And we don't even block the corner, we still have a good play.
What is your lineman footwork on that?
On our scoops, so if he's got a head up on him, he's stepping play side foot, and he's trying to rip across face. If you run like slanty D lineman, we almost use the same technique for our slant technique.
Okay.
The backside guy, his job's a little bit more important. So if I'm scooping to my right, I'm going to step and I'm trying to punch my buddy's hip. So that's his landmark. He's trying to get his hands on his hip, and he's basically following his buddy. If his buddy, once the guy next to him turns vertical, he's going to follow with that. If it keeps stretching, if the team is going to turn and run, it's going to stretch, and if his buddy washes, now he's going to bend back vertical. So it's on rocket toss, we call it like rip and run. So we're running 3 steps down the line, and then we're trying to rip and cross face. It looks janky. I mean, it's kind of just a mess of bodies going. The scoop blocks are a little bit more refined. So 2 steps, try to work vertical. That's how it's in theory supposed to be done. You know, it doesn't always translate. All right, I'll let this play through, and then I'll go to the next one here. This is a pretty good look at it. All right, so this is against a 4-3 team. So this is their strong safety. This is out of our unbalanced trips look. So we have 3 eligible receivers plus a covered tight end. They wanted to stay in their 4-3 shell. They brought their strong safety down, but we have numbers. They have a corner out here who's literally guarding no one. They got a corner on air, and they have a free safety over the top. That's a lot of grass out there. Let's run toss at it. So you'll see right here, this kid, first-year tight end, does not do a very good job with his block. He actually gets stabbed pretty good, doesn't get off the ball, gets knocked back, just kind of gets lucky on that. Our wing helps out though. So our wing right here, because he knows there's no edge threat, he actually can just work straight vertical, so he kind of cleans up. And this is a safety, he's thinking pass. He's used to trips and pass. He actually takes 2 steps back. And then triggers late. So see how he kind of gets out over that slot, and then he realizes late. He's also a sophomore, so that's part of it too. All right, just to look at rockets and the variation video. So this is that rip look I was talking about, where we just offset our fullback to the right. So now we're running rocket crack out of our tight alignment. You're going to see that this D end here, we don't do a good job against him. He actually gets in on the play. A lot of it has to do with our timing in the back, but by having that fullback over, he picks up that leakage, so we still have a good play. See how right there, he's behind the backside guard with the ball snap? That's awful. He needs to be in like the play side guard, so by the time the quarterback gets around, that toss should be happening almost out here by the hash. It's a super wide play. So the motion timing is way late, it's too deep. It's not a good play. There's leakage here, but that fullback is able to pick it up, and now we can cut off it. We still have a good play. I'll play it at full speed here and then slow it down. It's easier to see that way.
So the right tackle, he was responsible for that leakage?
No. So it looks to me like that guy's a 4. His rule is if it's a 4, don't block him. I think looking at it, obviously the end zone would be nice. If it's a 5, he's got to pick up the 5. If it's a 4, he's going to turn and go. The timing in the backfield is really the issue. Because the wing is so late, when he catches the toss, that guy has an angle on him. If he catches it outside, we're going to get to the sideline if we get outside of it. So, all right. Because we've been doing that so much with our fullback, it would be a huge tendency. Like when we offset the fullback, we were going that way. So we get to Mondovi here, as I said, conference title. We're like, oh, we'll just put him to the backside. We'll call Liz alignment, but still run rocket to the right, which it worked in practice. You'd be like, who cares? It's just a fullback move. You see, it actually throws off the motion path of our wing here. Because that fullback now is offset, he has to bobble back a little bit, and his time is affected. It's one of those things that we didn't notice in practice, and then we're like, oh, let's break our tendency in the game. It's like, oh shit, that wasn't so good. The fix was you just got to move the fullback up. I included this one to show, though, just why Rocket's such a good play. This, as I said, good team. You're going to see they get a lot of flow, and it just takes one guy out of position for a big play. This was the first points Mondovi gave up the entire year. Hit that seam, and now we're down the sideline. So you're going to see they come fill and they fly. We get a great kick out. The D end overruns it. Number 2, 9, see how he just turns and runs to be the edge player, and then that safety is just off a little bit. I'll slow down here. There's strong safety on his fill, this kid right here. He's trying to fill the alley. He's just a little bit over the top. You get just enough on him, or a little bit behind, excuse me, and now we're up the sideline. This is also too where if you get aggressive corners, so like this corner, he's coming up pretty hard on Rocket. Play action off a Rocket is also good down the sideline. All right, a couple things out of crack. So here we're playing kind of a, I don't know, 4-3 team, I guess. They changed, they were jumping around on us quite a bit. This is out of that base tight alignment. So in a normal base, Z would be out by the numbers. Now he's in tight. He's going to crack on second level defender. That's this kid. You'll see number 2 comes up the field, and then our play side wing kicks out on that. Get the edge, play side wing kicks out. Again, though, the timing on Rocket is so important in this back here. You'll see, again, we're snapping behind. It's not good. It's got to be a play side guard. This is one of those things where Rocket, we rep it a ton in 2 days, kids get it, and then as the year goes on, they get a little lazy or they get tired, they're not disciplined with it. That timing is super important. And then you can see when he catches it back here, well, now 77 is there to make the play. He's at the end. This is a better clip here. Our timing, we fixed this kid timing a little bit as the game went on. Again, we get a great seal block. Number 3 tries to trigger and be their outside force player. Our play side wing just makes a kick out, and now our wing has an easy cut up behind that block. A little bit better timing. See how now he catches that toss, how it's real wide. He's pretty flat, which is good. 25 gets the kick out block, finishes nicely, and now we can cut up. Because we have that crack block, their edge defender, 80, I can't tell his number, I think it's 86 or something. Once we seal that, there's not anyone else there to fill. They were also trying to jump around. We got a quick count on them. All right, so we're running the Rocket crack quite a bit, getting some big plays. They're getting tired of it, so now what they're going to do here is they're going to send their D end and their outside linebacker, strong safety type. He looks like an outside linebacker in this. They're going to just fly those guys to the motion. We knew they were doing that against Rockets, so it's our way back with Veer on them. So now this is actually our true triple option. This is outside Veer out of what would be U right tight. So tight end, covered by our tight receiver. He's cracking, and you're going to see when we go in motion, that D end flies out of him. So he's already getting outside. He's ready for Rocket to the field. He sees motion. See 50 said they both go flying out, and now we hit him with Veer underneath it. You can't really get an easier read for your quarterback than that. Shoulders away. Tight end does a good job picking up the mic. There's 1, there's 2, and we're right at the seam for, I think it's a 10-yard game, giving the fullback. That's where having that crack scheme out of Rocket, it marries really well with the Veer. Teams have to decide, are we going to fly to that Rocket? Well, if so, now you knife them back up inside. If they're going to sit, we'll keep working the edge.
Should you have blocked the corner, the guy way at the top?
No, he's number 2. So I probably should have mentioned that. I'm sorry. Because we have this is outside Veer crack. So now we go 1, 2. So it actually even wasn't crack, we wouldn't need to because it was tight. So our Z receiver uses the elbow.
Oh, you're triple.
Yeah, sorry. That was showing how triple marries well with this. So he knows he's 1. So our Z's hold up his left hand. He goes, it's okay, backside gap, or man on in this case. He's number 2. I'm not going to block number 2. So now he's going to work next level. This is where if we had him way out here, now it's not an easy block. He's got to hold that a lot longer by moving him in. Now we're going to make the corner be the pitch defender. Well, all game, the corner wasn't pitch defender. The corner's fighting off a receiver block to tackle the pitch, and now all of a sudden he's the pitch defender. So by varying up our alignment, we can change their responsibility. Willing to bet all week that corner didn't practice, how to take on pitch and how to feather and slow play and all those things. All right, I think this is my last clip here. This is that fullback or the halfback pass I was talking about. This is the playoffs. You'll see as soon as we go in motion, this guy's flat foot, and then he's triggering super hard. Our Z receiver is pretty wide open on the halfback toss play.
Wow.
I mean, that's That's a lot of separation. The receiver, he gets inside. It'd be nice if he stayed out on his landmark a little bit better. This kid, he got a pretty good arm. Even if your kid doesn't have a great arm, you know, if you got 10 yards of separation, you're probably going to have a good play. I'd like to see him, he comes inside and then stay out on the numbers. But he's still a good play. Not a perfect pass. This team knew we had it. We ran it to them against them previous year. They knew we had it, but we're just, it's one of those things, we're looking in the box. You know, I checked the iPad, hey, that corner, he's triggering hard on rocket. All right, halfback pass is good. I'll do it in slow motion here. Watch that corner. Flat-footed, he sees toss, he's up. He's not reading anyone, he's coming, right? Well, you gotta hit him. One thing when we block this, we teach everyone to still block it like rocket. So our wing and our tight end here who's covered, they're all turning and running. We like to offset the fullback, and now he's picking up essentially that B gap. So on the front side, they're turning and running, and then anything that maybe gets reached, or let's say they bring a blitz, he's picking it up. And actually, there's really no one there. You know, you see all the linebackers are all flying over the top because they're used to rocket, and then we come back with that. All right, that's the perfect timing with that.
So you said you open and rip on that tailback pass?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it's more of a little bit of a modified. So our front side tight end and tackle, they still want to sell it. And if we, that was so the tight end, he had a tight 9 or head up. That guy, we want to try and still fight to block essentially the outside C and D gap, right? Our guard and center, they're going to work essentially their scoop principles. And by offsetting that fullback, those two are going out, those two are staying here. Well, if someone were to come through there, the fullback's going to pick that up. Yeah.
So you don't open?
We're not. I mean, not entirely, but we want to make it look as similar to rocket as we possibly can. You know, one thing on rocket, the blocking scheme is so much different than everything else we do that if you're a linebacker and you see bodies turning and running, you almost know it's rocket, right? It looks way different. So we want to try to use that to our advantage. And oftentimes those backers, because they see rocket, like we love running rocket against blitz because we're out in the D gap and you're bringing guys A, B, or C gap. You know, it's a good play. So a lot of times, even if teams are showing blitz and they see us turn and run, they're going to try and redirect. So that's where on that halfback pass, just by influence of the O-line, you really don't run into issues with the leakage. So again, here's my contact information. Feel free to email me at any time. Happy to talk ball. If you're a defensive guy, you're facing option, want to talk over things that give us problems, be happy to talk that with you as well. I got time here. Happy to stick around afterwards. So I know our time's up, but if you got any questions, I'm happy to stick around and talk ball. So.